Ready?
I'm always ready.
Okay, this is how it starts. The double is cool.
Double is good.
Yeah, the double was really cool. I'm so happy you're here because I want to talk about life after playing basketball.
Okay.
Because we have the perspective of guys who play all the time. And I want to talk about you after.
All right.
I want to start with talking about the jersey retirements that we've seen.
Yep.
You were in LA to see Pau.
Yes.
And then Mark just had his here. And you had two different relationships with both of these guys.
Yes.
Played with one, covered the other for, a big chunk of time here in your post-basketball life. Did you have different emotions watching each of them?
The emotions were different because also the time period of how long there was a relationship also differed. Mm-hmm. So of course, Pau, watching his, number one is with a different team than who I played with. But to know that the start of his career, I was there to watch the beginning of it, and now to see the culmination of it all, I thought was cool for me to be a part of. And so that one was, I would say, maybe had a little bit more of a personal feel because it was a start and finish, and I was able to be at both for Pau.
Cool.
For Mark, it was more recent, and it was for longer stretches of time. So Pau and I were 2 years together just for the season. We didn't make the playoffs, no extra runs. But for Mark, it was extra runs every year. And so to experience now his jersey retirement, coupled with how much that his tenure here meant to this organization that pretty much solidified what our mantra is to this day, and to be here when that started, that was a more recent personal touch for me.
So they're both personal, just
both personal, just in different ways at different times. One was a little bit more hands-on. The other was just as a bystander, but just a close bystander.
I feel like that's like when I ask my dad who his favorite kid is. He's like, they're just different. One needed a little more attention, and
I love them both. I love them all. We love them the same, but we just love them in different ways.
In different ways. I bring that up only because I just got reminded that I haven't played basketball in 10 years. This season coming up for me will be 10 years since I graduated college. And I think something that I talk with players about sometimes is for example, Trey thought he was going to quit basketball, and then he was like, hey, my identity is wrapped up in this sport. I don't know what I would do without it. Right. And you went through that for a certain part of your life, right? So you retire from basketball, and then it's this thing that's been part of me for so long. How do I stay involved, or how do I not stay involved? People can go in two separate ways. You stayed involved. You have been calling the Grizzlies for a really long time, for longer than I have not played basketball.
Yes.
Almost. We're going to be at the same anniversary, right? Was that something you knew you wanted to do?
Yes, it was. And I always tell people the good thing about the league is there's so many different layers to the NBA. And one of the great ones is, as a player association, they have a lot of summer programs for you to be involved in and to try to figure out what you want to do when basketball is done. And, for me, I always knew basketball had to stop at some point in time. And life, though, would still continue. And so it had to become, what would I like to do with my life where I am now, as opposed to what I thought I was going to be doing when I got out of college. That it changed because life circumstances have changed. And so I did a number of programs for a couple of summers. And
what were programs that you did that you were like, I'm not doing this?
Well, continuing education. I realized I was not going to go back to school and get any more degrees. I told my mom I was going to graduate college. And when I did that, I vowed that was the end of school for me. Anything in terms, I went and did a business program, and that let me know that I didn't know how much business, real estate, it didn't
speak to
didn't do much for me. It was something everybody said you should, but it really didn't tickle my fancies, they'd say, in that way. But when I went to did the broadcast camp, and every medium of broadcast you can you can try out. And when I did call in the games, it made me feel like I felt it. It felt good. It felt because it was still talk the game, be around the game, but I could also teach the game in a way that I would like to people that would tune in.
And you're still part of a team.
And I'm still part of a team, different locker room, still do the same travel, still on the same schedule in terms of when you're working and when you're on and when you're off. And I thought that it would be better for my life and definitely for my marriage to keep it in that way.
When you do these camps, is there other players there with you, like these
Oh yeah,
broadcast
when
camps?
you go to the summer program, there's people sign up, and I think we were the inaugural season of doing a broadcast camp at that point in time.
Who else was there?
It was me. He asked me to remember something so long ago.
I know. This was a really long time ago.
I think it was Anthony Parker was there who played. I don't know, no super big names. Who else was that?
I'm putting you on the spot. Good
You
morning.
are putting me on the
Good
spot.
morning.
Because that's 20 years ago.
That's crazy.
You're talking about 10 years after
I know.
being
Imagine double it.
And I'm talking about 20 years ago and doing this program. And so,
Man,
yeah.
20 seasons.
It's been that long ago that I did the program to know what I wanted to do. But now you saying 10 years, this is my 15th year on this broadcast side. So I've surpassed how long I played being on the broadcast side.
Is that crazy to think about?
It's crazy, but it's also what you want, because the longevity side of the broadcast you can do
Forever.
as long as you continue to do the job in a good way and stay relevant. Then you can do it forever. The playing side stops. So, but it's nice of me to sit back and say I've 27 years in the NBA is where I'm at this point.
That's crazy.
That's
crazy.
That number is crazier than anything.
27 years. What's your favorite part of your job?
I really enjoy being around all of our crew, and I say that in two ways. Coming here, of course, being with y'all and we call this our home crew. When we're here at home and we're able to see everyone that works for Grind City, people that are there on our day-to-day basis in terms of the games. I love seeing all the ushers. I feel like they're family to me. And then when we go on the road, our tight-knit family that we have on the road that travels with us. And so I think the part that I would miss the most in the playing, I get by still doing this, because I still have a work family that I get to go and see and be a part of. And I think that's been the most rewarding side. Calling the games in those instances, those are great, and you're going to continue to have great games like that. But the relationships that we get to forge and be a part of regularly has been very rewarding.
Yeah, I think that would be one of the things when I say, like, those people who you went this way and these people go this way and are not involved in basketball, that team aspect, even though it's not like I have a point guard, a center, a shooting guard, you have like a team still. You're still part of something altogether. Okay, but basketball wise, because we're talking about 20, 15, 27 years, basketball changes. Like the NBA has changed, the game has changed. When you started calling games to now, how do you evolve with it?
That's what you have to do. You have to evolve as the game has evolved. The game has gone from being I always almost call a 50-50 game in terms of we're going to let you play offense, but we're going to let you play defense. There can be those different identities. It has evolved to being more offensive heavy than being defensive heavy, even though it's nice to see we're starting to have some rule changes that are allowing defense to have more of an influence on the game again. But you have to you evolve with the game. You evolve with even talking about the game. And so even someone like myself that you would call an old head or played back in the day, yes, the game was played differently for me, but I don't compare it much to where it is today, because it's just two different games. It doesn't mean that the game I played in was any less or is any better than what it is today. It's just different because it is officiated different. The skills that guys work on a regular basis are different for the game. And so, but also the skill levels are different because of the athleticism has grown. And
then there's guys like Wemby who enter the league and they're not real human beings.
Exactly, things that you haven't seen before. So it's I enjoy the change. There's certain things, of course, I'm like, oh, I enjoyed this much because when we played, it was this. But I don't compare the two. I let it. They're two separate. There's an era before me that played the game, and that game was played differently. There wasn't any better, wasn't any less. It was just the time.
We were playing at peach baskets at one time.
And they were also playing where you just beat somebody up no matter what. When you go across, you're gonna feel this, and that's gonna be a part of the game. To where today it's different, but I've enjoyed all facets of it.
Does the way you call it change? Like if you look back at like day one.
Yes, because the game itself has changed, and so the way you call it. It's still in a teaching way. I think the basics and fundamentals of basketball are still there. They're still relevant in today's game. And so those are the things that can continue to be the constant. The way that people approach the game in terms of how they want to execute on both ends may have changed. And so you got to figure out how you explain those changes still, but overall what they're trying to get accomplished. It's just the explanation of it has to adjust in some ways.
Do you remember your first game?
I don't. I wish I did. But I am the worst. I'm the worst. No, I'm the worst at the remember this thing. I promise you.
I'm the worst too.
Like even now when we get these little record book things that I may be a part of, and when people send it to me on Twitter or whatever, and I'm like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. But I would have never. I never knew
I tweeted one last year. I said, whoever passed Brevin for this, and you retweeted or you commented, and you were like, thanks. Yeah. My fault. My fault.
No. But yeah, no, I don't remember the first one. And because I was doing college games while I was doing Grizzlies games when I first started.
They're like overlapping.
So now it's like, it overlaps. I tell people this. It's hard for me to distinguish the Grizzly teams. Like, and the one thing that we always struggle with was the Rudy Gay overlap. And it's like, bro, I don't remember. I'm trying to remember where did he leave? Like, where were we? But I know he played with. It's like, only distinguishing line I know is when the Core Four played and where we are today with our guys.
But I want to know if you remember this.
Okay.
I'm just gonna throw it out there.
Tell me.
There was games where you would have called. Like the players would have been your former teammates at one point, right? Like a Jason Williams, a Shane Battier. Was that like strange to you, or was it like kind of cool?
No, that was cool to call games of those guys still playing. Like none of the guys I would have called would have played with me with the Grizzlies. But to call games of guys who are still playing, who
you played with, who you played against,
who I played against. That was always cool because it gave, even before the games, it gave me a little, it gave us time to reminisce, but also catch up. Because a lot of these guys, we played together and we were cool, but you don't really keep in touch on a regular basis. If you run into them here or there,
it's also easier now to keep in touch with people.
It's a lot easier now to do it if you put the effort into it. The problem with me is I'm a bad effort person.
No, you're just golfing. I'm
fine to go off the grid. It's fine for me to go off the grid. But yeah, no, in the beginning it was, and we make a joke about it now because it is fewer and fewer teams of players. At this point, there are very, very minimal teams that players that I played against. Now all of those guys are coaches. So now my thing
it's
a different dynamic. It went from when I first started calling games, it was still guys I played against, guys I knew in that fashion.
So you know their games, like you know.
And we know about them. We go up, we talk, we remember playing against each other. We remember. Now it's going and talking to all of these assistant coaches and head coaches of
what
NBA
head coach
teams.
Did you play against? Chauncey Billups. Oh.
We were in the same draft class, so that was.
That's cool.
Yeah. Oh heck yeah! It's cool to see that. JB Bickerstaff, who he was my coach.
He was just here.
Exactly. He was my coach when I was at Charlotte. And then we played against each other in college.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he was at Oregon State. I think he was at Oregon State when I was at Stanford. The end of my career, beginning of his. So yeah, there are in New Orleans. Why am I forgetting his name? Willie Green. Played against Willie Green. So yeah, it's cool for me to to look out and see these guys take their path, but it's also good to catch up.
Who's still playing that you played against?
Uh,
Bron's been in the league
DeAndre
forever.
Jordan, LeBron James, Chris Paul. I wonder if I don't think Steph. I think he was.
No.
Nope. So you got to think of all of our 15 and older, like
15 seasons and more. I should have researched
yeah,
it.
exactly.
You're right.
I didn't come
prepared.
there's only a handful.
Mm-hmm.
Taj Gibson just re-signed. He was in New York for a minute. I think now he's in Toronto.
That's so crazy.
Very, very few guys.
Yeah, and it's only going to get fewer.
Yeah, now it's now I'm gonna be the real OG at this point.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Do you have a favorite call that comes to mind?
The one at this point, the Ja Morant's dunk in Indiana, the one there, the one in Phoenix. You had the one
Over
in
Baines.
Phoenix. Yes, that was huge. And then like the games, I go. It's almost more like the battles. Like anytime we had a call the game against the Clippers when we had the Core Four, and that was fun for me just because it was two contrasting styles. It was, and the teams and the way they played were as contrasting as the cities. And so to watch those go back and forth, any of those games, when we got a chance to call those playoff series, those were
The whole series.
Oh, the Mark game winner in San Antonio.
Mm-hmm. I've seen that replay a billion times.
That was, because San Antonio literally kicked our butt, Joe, forever.
I've heard. I wasn't here, but I heard. I've heard the stories.
They had forever. So, yeah, those are the ones that those stick out because those were. It wasn't just the call; it was the entire call, all the gravity of it. I think that's what got my juices flowing.
So you were here throughout the whole Core Four.
Yep.
And now you're here with this new generation.
Yes.
Is there similarities between the two?
I think the similarity in terms of they play with a swag, they play with an edge, is a similarity. They just do it in different ways.
Again, I love them both, just differently.
Yeah, exactly. I enjoy how they've been able to keep a part of the essence of what the organization is, but have combined it with today's basketball. And it's always nice when you're able to have the players to be able to fit that mold. And so to be able to watch a Ja and a Dez and Jaren, watch them grow and be now the new kind of the core three. Yeah. With those
Doesn't
three.
Doesn't rhyme as well.
That's not the same. We got to come up. We will have to come up with another name for them. But this is now their teams and what they've been able to do and the skill sets that the three of them possess have been fun to watch evolve over time. And so it's been.
And we beat the Spurs now all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I was upset when we lost our 13-game winning streak over them, and so. But yeah, it's been fun, and I think what's even better about it is there's a future. Like with the Core Four, we knew like this was the time was going to have to slow down.
Just age-wise.
Because age-wise, these guys are young. And hopefully can stick together. And I think that they all find the role. I think we all know Ja Morant is the number one guy on his team. He's the guy that can change a fortune like that by himself.
He did. He changed the franchise when he came here.
By himself. And I don't think you can think of a better young supporting cast than Dez and Jaren with what they're able to do and how they've gotten better. And both of them have been put in a position where they had to be leaders and they had to step into that same role that Ja had. So it'll be nice to have guys that also understand what it takes to be in that seat and see how they continue to mold and mesh together and then continue to build out from there. The future is very exciting.
Not you making me excited for next year already. That does make me excited. For now, golf, retirement, drink some wine.
I got to get
enjoy
into
yourself.
wine. I'm not a wine drinker.
No
at
coffee,
all.
no wine.
No
You just-
coffee, no
water?
wine. I'm a water, Tito's, lemonade guy.
Okay, I'll give
Kool-Aid.
you lemon.
Give me
I'll
some
give you
Kool-Aid.
lemonade.
I love me some Kool-Aid.
Who are you? They don't
Kid from
give
Jersey.
Kool-Aid at golf courses. You have to be
Kool-Aid, you gotta go to special spots to get Kool-Aid.
done with you. We'll see you back in September?
October.
We'll come back in September.
October.
Thank you, Brev.
No, thanks for having me.